Okay, cool. All right, today is Skunk Island. We're going to be talking about skunks today, but first, as always, I want to say thank you to our subscribers. This program could not be possible without you. And if you're not already a subscriber, you can become one. And your subscription includes weekly lectures, monthly field trip, and a subscriber appreciation party. UEC members get 20% off. We have some exciting talks coming up. Next week, we'll be hearing from someone with the Integrated Pest Management Institute about No May. And then Maggie's going to be talking about dragonflies the following week. And then I'll be back to talk about brood parasitism the first week of May. Some other exciting stuff that we have coming up is Earth Week. Earth Week is April 22nd through the 29th. Kicking things off with Milwaukee River Keepers annual river cleanup. You can join us at our Washington Park or Riverside Park locations. Our Three Bridges Park location is already full, but this will kick off a whole week of fun volunteer events, including our bird walks, to celebrate the Earth. And then make sure you mark your calendars. Bruce City Birding Festival is coming up. This is going to be May 12th through the 19th. Starting off with the Green Birding Challenge on Saturday, May 13th, where you can join your friends and compete to see who sees the most birds without using fossil fuels. Signing up for our challenge gets you an entrance for our door prize, lunch, and a t-shirt. And then the following week, we'll have all kinds of fun stuff, including workshops, lectures, and field trips. We'll be returning to Horicon Marsh this year. We'll have our bird art workshop, and a special lecture at Gathering Place Brewery. And you can check our website for the full calendar of events. But getting into skunks, skunks are members of the order Carnivora, which we've been talking about in the past. I've done a lecture on raccoons and badgers and bears, and I don't even remember what else. But mammals of the order Carnivora are creatures that specialize primarily in eating flesh. This group contains at least 279 species, including cats, seals, bears, hyenas, canids, and more. If we narrow down where skunks fall in particular, they fall into this superfamily, Mastoloideae. These mammals all share characteristics of their skull structure and their teeth. But other than that, they might not seem super similar. This entire superfamily includes red pandas, mustelids, which we've talked about a little bit. Those include badgers and weasels and wolverines, and otters, but also this family includes raccoons, and what we'll be talking about today are skunks. Skunks belong to the family Mephidae, in which includes skunks as well as stink badgers. We won't talk a ton about stink badgers today, but know that they're a part of this. They're all characterized by this ability to expel a pungent odor, as well as their coloration, this black and white warning coloration. There are 12 living species today that belong to 4 different genera. We have I don't really know how to say that genus, but this genus, which are hognose skunks, they can vary from black and white to including some brown and some gray. And they have an interesting shaped nose, which is why they're called hognose skunks. Also a group that we won't talk about extensively today, but know that they exist. Then we have Spilogale, which are our spotted skunks, which I'll go over briefly. And then we have our Mephitis, which we'll be focusing on today. This includes our hooded skunk and our striped skunk. And then our stink badgers. Excluding stink badgers, skunks are really a New World species that occur primarily in the Americas. Stink badgers occur in Asia, whereas our spotted skunk, our hognose skunks, and our striped/hooded skunks all occupy the Americas in different distributions. All skunks are characteristically black and white. They may include some brown and gray, depending on the species, but they are relatively small with long bodies and long claws, as well as short legs. Each species will have a different pattern of black and white or other colors that I've mentioned, but this can also vary between individuals. All skunks are this color as warning coloration, since they are all known for their ability to spray a liquid with a strong and unpleasant odor. Spotted skunks are frankly just adorable, but they're very secretive little creatures. They're much smaller than our standard striped skunk. They are characterized by these 4 stripes that run along their back and their side, that are broken in a pattern that makes them look spotted, which is why they're called spotted skunks. They also have this cute white spot on their forehead, which contributes to that spotting pattern. They are about 18 inches in length and usually weigh less than 4 pounds. This in particular is the eastern spotted skunk, which is of conservation concern, but their range doesn't quite reach into eastern Wisconsin, so we won't spend a ton of time focused on them today. They really like covered thickets, woods, and riparian areas. But yeah, you can see they don't quite reach eastern Wisconsin. But we'll focus more on their cousin, the striped skunk, Mephitis mephitis. Mephitis is actually a Latin word that means a noxious, pestilent, or foul exhalation from the earth, appropriately named. They are prolific throughout North America, and they're well adapted to survive in a wide variety of habitats. This includes mixed woodlands, open fields, even urban areas. They are, as I said, bigger than our spotted skunk. They're about 25 inches long and usually weigh 4 to 10 pounds. They have this black base with a stripe that starts at their head and then runs down their back and breaks into 2 at their shoulders, and then this line in the middle of their forehead. Again, this can vary a little bit in terms of exact pattern and coloration between individuals, but this is pretty standard. They have 5 toes on each of their feet, and their front are armed with very long curved claws that are really good for digging. Their back also have claws, but are shorter and straighter. To kind of, because their legs are so short, they kind of waddle a little bit, as you can see in the GIF. But they're nocturnal, generally solitary, spend most of their life alone, whether it's hunting, denning, or just wandering around, but then they'll find shelter during the day. In the winter, females might den together. I think they've found up to 12 female skunks living together in a den during the wintertime to keep warm. But outside of the winter period, it's very rare for adult skunks to be together. They'll den in a variety of locations. They're usually pretty opportunistic when it comes to dens. They like hollowed out logs. Sometimes they'll dig their own dens since their claws are really good for digging. But they'll also occupy dens that are abandoned by other animals. And they're very adaptable, so they're very happy to find shelter under a deck or in a crawl space in your yard. Because they're so flexible in terms of their diet, their habitat, and their shelter preferences, skunks are a very common urban species and are often seen and smelt in cities. They have a really great sense of smell and hearing, but their eyesight is very poor. So in urban areas, their main source of mortality is going to be from vehicle collisions. Like other members of the mustelid and raccoon and others that we previously talked about, skunks are omnivorous and will eat just about anything, striped skunks in particular. They're primarily insectivores and will eat things like grasshoppers, beetles, crickets, and caterpillars, but they also like fruits and vegetables, as well as eggs. They'll prey on chicks of ground nesting birds, reptiles, amphibians, fish, crabs, etc. But they also aren't opposed to an opportunistic meal of carrion. If they come across a carcass, they're very open to eating just about whatever they find. They also like pet food and human trash. So for us who live in a city, it's important to secure your garbage, clean any fruit that's fallen in your yard, and keep your pet food indoors if you want to deter skunks. What skunks really love are honeybees. They are one of the primary predators of them, and their thick fur actually protects them from the stings. So they aren't too bothered by that. What they'll do is they'll approach a beehive and use their long claws to scratch at it until guard bees will come and investigate, and then they have a lovely feast. In urban and agricultural areas, they have been a bit of a problem with people who keep bees because they like them so much. But they are their natural prey item. Baby skunks are typically born in mid-May, early June, and litters usually range from 2 to 12 kits with an average about 5 or 6. When they're born blind and deaf and sparsely furred, but they do still have like that distinctive striping pattern, and this is true for all skunks, not just striped skunks. As they grow, their eyes will obviously open, they'll be able to hear, and they'll develop long, thick fur. While they're still blind and mostly immobile, they'll be kept in a den with their mother till they're able to make their way around on their own. And they'll stay close to mom until they're about a year old and ready to breed. So the following breeding season, they'll usually disperse. And of course, while their musk is underdeveloped, they'll still spray. And baby skunks will, of course, take the classic defensive stance when they are scared. So as I mentioned, all skunks are known for their musks. All skunk species will spray in defense. The smell and the compound that makes up their spray is different depending on the species, but they all spray. They don't really want to spray because it's very costly to produce the musk, but if it comes down to it, every single one of them will spray. Because they don't really want to spray, the first thing they'll do is take a defensive stance where they raise their tail up and arch their back as a warning to make that warning coloration stand out and make themselves look bigger. Our tiny little spotted skunks actually will do a little handstand to make themselves look extra big. which is very cute and interesting. But what they'll then do is they'll stomp their feet and they'll hiss. They'll turn their butt towards their target, but will really only spray as their last result. And you'll see this little baby skunk stomping, and you can hear it. And we'll hear it in a video at the end. But they can spray up to 15 feet, and their spray is incredibly accurate. They usually aim for the eyes to temporarily blind their target. And how they do this is by contracting their anal muscles. So the musk that they produce is stored in these anal sacs that sit on either side of the rectum. And they'll squeeze their anal muscles to expel liquid through these two nipple-like protrusions called papillae on either side of the anus. Each papillae is kind of independently movable. They can't squeeze one without the other and expel the liquid, but they can independently aim each of them for maximum effectiveness. And each of these anal glands holds about a tablespoon of musk. And so they can only spray 5 to 6 times before that's depleted, and they'll need to rest and recuperate before they'll be able to spray again. Most mammals have anal glands that contain a musky liquid, but skunks are really the only ones that smell so pungent and widespread. You can smell a skunk up to like a 3.5 mile radius when they spray. But what really makes their musk different from other mammals is thiols. Thiols are compounds that contain a sulfur binded to a hydrogen, and sulfur is what gives it that distinctive smell. I'm sure we are all familiar with the sulfury smell that like rotten eggs produce, and this is really where the smell comes from in skunks. Not all thiols are super intense, like rotten eggs or skunks. Things like coffee and grapefruit also contain thiols and give it that distinct scent. And thiols are actually added to natural gas, so we can smell a leak should there be one. Cannabis doesn't actually contain thiols, but they do contain volatile sulfur compounds, which is why some strains smell skunky. Skunk musk contains 3 thiols, 2 of which give it its foul odor, as well as some other compounds called thiol acetates that, when combined with water, create thiols and produce more of a scent, which is why it's so difficult to get skunk smell out of stuff. Some animals really like the smell of skunk musk. A lot of canids in particular like to rub on it, but no one really likes getting sprayed. It's not very pleasant. It gets in your eyes. It's not necessarily deadly, but it can cause watery, itchy, and burning eyes that result in temporary blindness, and can cause nausea and vomiting. For this reason, skunks have very few natural predators. Many animals, including top carnivores like cougars, typically avoid skunks unless they're really, really hungry. The spray is just so unpleasant that they don't really want to mess with it. Though a lot of mammals will prey on skunks that have already been killed and found like as roadkill or just because of natural causes. There is one exception to this, and that is the great horned owl. Great horned owls are the primary predators of skunks and prey on them on a very regular basis. In one case, the remains of 57 striped skunks were found in a single great horned owl nest. They can still get sprayed, but they're much stealthier than your typical dog or cougar. And so prey on skunks very regularly. Okay, so what do you do if you or your pet gets skunked? What I have found is the top don't bathe in tomato juice. Apparently that's a myth. It only appears to work due to olfactory fatigue, meaning eventually your brain just kind of ignores the scent, but it's still there. And so you or your pet will continue to smell like skunk for a good long while. Because it's so oily, it's very hard to get off. But what the Humane Society recommends is using a mixture of hydrogen peroxide, baking soda, and soap or detergent. You want to make sure you flush your eyes or your pet's eyes, and then scrub them with this mixture. Don't let it sit, and then rinse thoroughly. My personal favorite remedy for skunk smell is Techno. This is a pretty magical solution. That's main job is really to remove the oils from poison oak, poison ivy, and poison sumac. But it does a really good job at also removing things like sap and pitch, tar, as well as skunk smell. It's very effective. It actually smells pretty nice. So hopefully you've learned today that skunks are spunky little critters that are not to be messed with. And they're very cute, very adorable, and fun to live with, unless they spray you. So I have some videos, but that means I have to stop the recording.